I was an absolute bum in year 10 before I started making flashcards. When I study for a subject, I'd be like, okay, I finally have a grasp over that subject, and I'd feel confident. But then when it actually came to the test, I'd miss the stupidest marks because I just forgot some simple details that I should have remembered. That all changed when I started making flashcards. All of a sudden, I was able to memorize pretty much any information thrown at me. And that was one of the main reasons why I ended up getting pretty much all 9s in GCSE, and I'm currently predicted 4 A stars at A level. All thanks to flashcards. But how do you really make flashcards? Firstly, you need to understand two concepts which are going to be the backbone of how you create and use flashcards. Active recall and spaced repetition. After finishing this video, you need to go and watch videos explaining these two topics, because they are what gets the average Joe, me, the top grades. Now, after knowing this, you're going to need to know which platform you're going to use to make these flashcards. Now listen carefully, because this is probably going to offend a lot of people out there. Don't make physical flashcards. The era of writing down flashcards and highlighting them and making them look all pretty, that era is over. Even if you've watched a couple of my videos, you know that I'm all about studying as less as possible and still getting the top grades. If you want to do that, you're going to have to ditch the physical flashcards. I mean, think about it. Writing down takes much longer than just typing, and it doesn't necessarily help you memorize either. A lot of flashcard apps actually have algorithms that are optimized to help you memorize as efficiently as possible. And on top of that, you could pretty much go over your flashcards anywhere. You don't have to carry them around with you. They're always on your phone or on your laptop. In my eyes, it's a win-win situation. And now that I've convinced you to use a digital flashcard maker, you need to actually know which one you're going to use. Now, the most common one is Anki, but I'd actually recommend not using it and using a different one called Anki app. They're both free, but the reason why I use Anki app over the normal Anki is because Anki app actually has an app on your phone. So I could be writing flashcards in the morning, and then that same evening I could be out with my family, just in the car or whatever, and going through those same flashcards on my phone. If you really try, you could probably find a better app out there, but I'm just telling you what works. In my opinion, Anki app, it gets the job done. And now that you know which platform you're going to use, you need to know how you're actually going to make the flashcards. Now, firstly, make separate groups for each subject. And every time you make a new deck, make sure that it is specific to a certain topic. Don't just say, oh, you know what, today I'm going to revise some physics. I'm just going to get some stuff from this topic and just put it all into one deck, because that's going to confuse you. I can't tell you how many times I've been lazy while naming my decks, and all of a sudden I'm lost trying to find a certain topic, but I can't because they're all pretty much the same in terms of their names. Now next, you need to know what you're actually going to put on the flashcard. Ideally, you should be going through some notes you've made or some textbook or video that you're using. Every time you come across a new piece of information, let's say for example the equation for specific heat capacity, firstly, you need to check that it's actually in the syllabus. I've seen it so many times where a textbook or a YouTube video just waffle about some useless information. We need to save the precious space in your brain, so only write down stuff that matters. Once you've verified that it's actually in the syllabus, a simple one-liner does the job. For example, what is the equation for a specific heat capacity? Now, on the answer side of the flashcard, never make it longer than a sentence or 2 sentences, because the longer it is, the harder it is for your brain to actually memorize it. Think about it. When you want to memorize a paragraph, are you going to break it into sentences, or are you going to memorize the whole paragraph at once? Of course, you're going to break it into sentences, because that's how your brain likes to memorize things. So if an answer for a certain question is too long, try to break it up into different flashcards. For example, instead of saying, I don't know, list and explain 5 different adaptations of the human body, instead you could say, list 5 adaptations of the human body. Then on a separate flashcard, you could say, explain such and such adaptation. You get the idea. Now that we have our flashcards, we need to know how to actually use them. You want to know what the funny thing is? I don't think I've ever actually sat on my desk and went through flashcards. I pretty much only go through flashcards when I'm out somewhere and I'm waiting for something. Maybe I'm going to school or coming back to school, or maybe I'm, I don't know, at the doctor's office and I'm just waiting for the doctor to come. If you really think about it, you probably waste an hour or maybe even 2 hours a day on just stuff like commuting and waiting for stuff. If we're really being honest with ourselves, we waste that time on our phones going through Instagram or TikTok or whatever, when instead you could just be going through your flashcards. When you want to revise flashcards, don't revise based on what you feel like revising that day. Make a structured plan. For example, on Monday you're going to go through physics, on Tuesdays you're going to go through biology, and so on. Now, sticking to this is going to ensure that every week you go through flashcards, which means that every week you're going to be memorizing more and more and more. And that is what spaced repetition is. That's what's going to get you the top grades, because you're going to be memorizing anything thrown at you.